All right, let's move on now to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. And Joe, we might see some new names at the top of the leaderboards this year. Kyle Busch Motorsports and GMS Racing both closing their doors at the end of 2023. I got to tell you, for me, Joe, it hasn't really sunk in yet. Has it sunk in for you that these two teams who have had so much success over the last several years in this series are not going to be on the grid at Daytona this weekend?
I would say the news that they were out has sunk in. That's like, okay, they're not going to be there. We've seen teams, especially in the truck series, they'll come and go. But I think once we're at the track, the competition, you're not going to see that familiar 51. That's why I think it's going to really be different. And then in general, just the fact that, it's been for the longest time, there's always been Kyle Busch Motorsport vehicles out there, Kyle Busch doing a race here and there. To not have that, I think long run, that's where I think it might create a void. Like, we don't have that here anymore. But with that said, it could be wide open, this field. I mean, when it comes to favorites, gee whiz. I mean, we could talk about the championship favorites later, but you no longer have that team of Kyle Busch is going to be the team to beat each and every weekend. It's now, I think, going to be a lot more complicated, but I think it's going to be really fun. And overall, we'll just see. I mean, there was an era before Kyle Busch was there. Now this is sort of that new era where he's left, and I wouldn't count it as permanent. I would be shocked if when Brexton gets older, we don't see some sort of reincarnation of Kyle Busch Motorsports.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth there. I don't know that this is the end of all time for Kyle Busch Motorsports in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure he's got a plan for Brexton, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Again, Brexton's really still a kid. He's got a good 6 to 8 years still before we're probably having these conversations in a more serious manner. Although I know that is his goal for his son, and I'm sure Brexton's goal as well. So we'll look forward to that when we get there. But still plenty of time to figure those plans out. But Joe, I am completely in agreement with you. Those trucks have been front runners for really the last decade and a half now. I feel like with that program that Kyle Busch built, and to be clear, he is still going to run a few races with Spire, who bought the Truck Series assets from his team. And I think Spire's got an interesting program that they're trying to build up here as well, and not just in the Truck Series, but of course with their Cup team in 2024 and beyond. But going to be interesting to see who might fill that void. And Joe, that's the question that I'll pose over to you now. Obviously, we still have teams like ThorSport who have been around forever in their own right. You got Tricon Garage who have a strong program. Who do you think might be some of those teams that could take this opportunity with KBM and GMS no longer being there, rise to the top and take their place as the top teams in the Truck Series?
Well, those two for a start, easily. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be. Ben Rhodes, I think he's going to be a contender too. I'm really curious to see what Grant Enfinger is going to do. I mean, he switched teams. He's now with, I think it's like CR7.
CR7, right.
Yeah, so CR7, Grant Enfinger, I mean, considering what happened last year at Phoenix, I think he's motivated. It's going to be a matter of where that team is at the time of racing. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with Nice Motorsports. It wasn't too long ago, Nice Motorsports, Carson Hocevar, we're talking about them quite a bit. Now Carson's gone. I believe it's Matt Mills that's going to be in that 42. So I'm really curious to see if that team is just going to be up towards the front. And then the experience of Matt Mills, how is he going to play out throughout the year? Ty Dillon, he is going to be back in the Truck Series. I'm really curious to see what he does. It's Rackley Racing, I think, or something
Rackley
like that.
War, that's right, the 25.
War. So I'm really excited to see what Ty Dillon could do. Could this just be a revitalization of his career? Because I think a lot of people have just seen him as sort of, okay, he's in the Cup Series, but he's not doing anything there. He's being outperformed by his teammates. Now he's going to go back to the Truck Series, but he's no longer the young upcoming driver. He's now the driver that has been in the Xfinity Series, the Cup Series, now coming back down. I think he's going to be very motivated. Let's not forget Rev Racing, Nick Sanchez. I think that's going to be another driver to watch. So overall, I think it's going to be wide open between a lot of these drivers. I think the big thing is going to be once we hit the mile and a half ovals, we could really get an indicator where everyone racks up. For Daytona, though, it's going to be, I think it's just going to be a little bit chaotic. Then Front Row Motorsports, let's see what happens with them, because I know they always seem to be pretty good, but they lost their driver, so it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, but they got a good replacement in Lane Riggs. I think a lot of people are very excited for him to have this opportunity. He's done a lot with his limited starts that he's gotten leading up to this season. Now he's got a chance to run championship caliber equipment that Zane Smith ran the last couple of years. So we'll see what he can pull off. Another team that I would keep an eye on, I look at McAnally Hilgeman Racing and how close they came to a championship last year with Christian Eckes ending the year as strong as he possibly could with a 1-2 finish. I know that Phoenix truck race was so chaotic with all those overtimes and how that race ended, but they survived the carnage. They pulled through there. Now Christian Eckes knows that he can win the championship. He just has to get to that championship four. Tyler Ankrum and Daniel Dye are two drivers that I don't expect them to be running up front as much as I expect Christian Eckes to be, but I still think can give you a solid performance here and there. And if they pull their weight throughout the season, we might look at McAnally Hilgeman as one of the new top teams in the truck series going forward. So I'm very curious to see what happens with that program. And Joe, you mentioned Nice Motorsports as well. Bailey Curry, I think, has had some strong runs here or there. Maybe not as consistent as Carson Hocevar or Ross Chastain before him. I think the undisputed top two drivers in Nice Motorsports history. But Bailey's got a good opportunity to come back this year. I'm excited to see what he can do as well. And then Ty Dillon, I think this is a big year for him. You know, this is a big opportunity for him to show that he still has the potential that he showed the first time he was in the truck series when he was running for his grandfather's team, nearly emulated his brother Austin by winning a championship, moved up to the Xfinity Series, won a race there, then got a chance in the Cup Series, but hasn't had too much success. I think sometimes taking a step back, especially when you're a veteran like that and you've run as many races as Ty has, when you have as much experience as Ty has, this could be the shot in the arm that he needs to have some success and revitalize his career. And, you know, we've got a lot of drivers that we're going to be keeping an eye on. And Joe, I understand maybe one more you want to bring up before we move on here.
Yeah, Stuart Friesen. I know.
Sure.
He hasn't won in a couple. He did win last year. I don't remember if he won the year before, but he sort of reminds me a little bit of like Ricky Rudd in the Cup Series. He just seems to always be towards the front, fast. May miss out the race here or there just because of bad luck, things not going right. I'm just curious if you're thinking maybe he could have a return to victory lane this year with that team. And especially, I just think it's like, okay, he's always seems to be up towards the front. Could he be a potential dark horse contender for maybe the championship?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at his results now. Very up and down, very inconsistent last year. He did get a win at Texas in 2022, but, you know, Joe, that's his last win in the last 4 seasons. He only has that one win at Texas. Of course, he narrowly missed out on the championship 4 in 2022. And I remember on the Encore show, we played that interview. He wasn't too happy with his ThorSport teammates, not explicitly administering team orders, but you could kind of read the room and tell what they were doing. And he was like, look, I'm just out here by myself. I didn't have a teammate to lay over and give them a spot or anything. So, you know, I'm sure he's more motivated than ever. And like you mentioned, Joe, you know, hasn't had a ton of wins in the last few seasons here, but certainly has a lot of talent behind the wheel, and he'll have the equipment that can get the job done for him. So that's another good name to keep an eye on as well.